flames. That's all I remember at first. The way they danced across my shirt sleeves, turning blue fabric into a crawling orange nightmare. The smell of burning skin, my skin, and their laughter, sharp, cruel, echoing in my ears like gunshots. "Run, old man, run!" they shouted. My own blood, my grandchildren. I remember thinking, this is how it ends, not in some hospital bed, not quietly in my sleep, but on the dirt behind the barn I built, set ablaze by the very hands I once taught to hold a hammer. I fell to my knees, trying to roll the fire out, but it clung to me like something alive. When I opened my mouth to scream, smoke filled my lungs instead. The world dimmed to a trembling blur of orange and black. But I didn't die. The neighbors found me hours later. What was left of me? They said the fire burned through half my clothes and a good part of my face. Doctors said it was a miracle I survived. I called it a punishment postponed, because that kind of betrayal doesn't end with fire. It just begins there. When I woke in the hospital, wrapped like a mummy, I didn't see my grandchildren, not one. The police came, though, asked me if I knew who'd done it. I told them no, not yet. Because I needed time to remember, to plan, to make sure my revenge would cut deeper than any flame ever could. They thought they'd killed me for good, but they didn't understand the kind of man I am. I'm Tom Blake, 80 years old, carpenter, widower, father of 2, grandfather of 4 ungrateful demons. I built my home with my hands, raised my children on honest work, and buried my wife with tears that could have filled a river. And those kids, those monsters, thought I was too old, too weak to fight back. When I got out of the hospital, I came back to find my house stripped bare, furniture gone, my truck missing, even Martha's wedding ring vanished from the nightstand. They sold what they could and left the rest to rot. The neighbors looked away. People always look away when evil wears a familiar face. I sat on the porch that night, bandages itching, face half stiff from skin grafts, and I whispered her name. "Martha, if you can hear me, help me stay steady. Don't let me do something stupid, not yet." But deep down, I knew I'd already made my choice. The first step was patience. I spent weeks pretending to be harmless, walking with a cane, moving slow, letting everyone think I was a ghost waiting to fade. The kids didn't come back, not even to check if I was alive. Good. That made what came next cleaner. I started with small things. Went to the county office, got copies of every property deed, every car registration connected to my name. Guess what I found? Those bastards had transferred half my land to themselves months before the fire. Fake signatures, forged papers. They planned it. The fire was just their way of tying up loose ends. That night, I lit a match. Not for revenge yet, but for memory. I held it close enough to feel the heat and whispered, "You started this with fire, kids. Let's see how it ends." Then I began building again. Not a house, not furniture, something smaller, sharper, traps, mechanisms, machines. My hands remembered every nail, every gear, every trick of balance. It took months, but I had time and rage. I moved quietly too. Sold the burned property to a developer through a lawyer I trusted from years back. Nobody knew it was me behind the sale. They thought old Tom had finally given up. The money went into a new account under a fake name, one they'd never trace. By autumn, I was ready. The oldest grandson, Kyle, was first on my list. The one who'd poured the gasoline, laughing like it was a game. He'd moved into my old house, the ashes rebuilt with my insurance payout. My house. My wife's garden turned into his goddamn barbecue spot. One evening, I stood across the street, hidden under my hat, and watched them. Him and his friends, drunk, laughing. When the light from the porch hit his face, I saw a flash of the boy he used to be, the one who helped me carve birdhouses in summer, who used to call me Pops and fall asleep on my lap. That's when it hit me. The worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was that I'd loved them too much to see it coming. But love's a dangerous thing when it curdles into hate. So I waited until he left the next morning for work, then slipped through the fence into the backyard. I buried a small box under the porch, a little gift of my own design, harmless until touched, invisible to anyone not looking closely. I wasn't planning to kill him, not yet. I just wanted him to feel what it's like to lose control, To wake up one morning and realize the world isn't as safe as he thought. That night, I sat back in my motel room, listening to the rain. Somewhere across town, I knew he'd be hearing the faint tick under his porch, thinking it was pipes or insects or maybe his imagination. It wasn't. I smiled for the first time since the fire. I told myself it wasn't revenge, not yet, just justice warming up. The doctor said I'd never feel heat properly again, that the nerves in my hands were too damaged. Maybe that's true, but I can still imagine it, the way the flames will look when the time comes. They thought the fire finished me. They were wrong. It only burned away the part of me that forgave. And now the part that's left, the part that remembers, is coming for them, one by one. Next comes Lily, sweet little Lily who held the match. And when I'm done, maybe I'll finally rest. Or maybe I'll burn what's left of this world to ash, just to make it even. I used to think nightmares ended when you woke up. Now I know they just changed shape. It's been 6 months since the fire. My skin has healed the way cracked earth heals after drought. Uneven, stubborn, and dry. The doctors call it recovery. I call it camouflage. No one looks twice at an old man with scars. They see weakness. They don't see what's behind it. Kyle was first. He was always the ringleader, the one who laughed the loudest, who handed Lily the match, who poured the gasoline like he was baptizing me in flames. I used to hold him as a baby, you know. He'd fall asleep on my chest while I hummed old country tunes. Now, when I close my eyes, I still see him standing over me, the light from the fire painting his grin in gold. I could have gone straight to the police, sure, but what would I have said? My grandchildren tried to kill me, officer. Trust me, I saw them through the smoke. They'd have patted my shoulder, whispered, "Poor old man," and filed it under dementia. No, the law wouldn't give me peace. Only balance would. I rented a room above the hardware store in town. Cheap, quiet, close to everything I'd need. Every night I sat at the window, watching the small town lights blink out one by one, until it was just me, the moon, and the ache in my hands. I made lists in the dark. Kyle, Lily, Ben, and the youngest, little Emma, the one who didn't stop them, the one who watched. I started small, just to let him feel it. The way I felt that night, the fear of something unseen. One evening I drove by the house that used to be mine. The house he rebuilt using the insurance money from my fire. He'd painted the walls beige, cut down Martha's apple tree, replaced her flowers with a grill and plastic chairs. It looked like a stranger's house, wearing my home skin. I waited until he left for work, still wore his cheap cologne, still slammed the door like he was declaring victory. Then I slipped through the fence. My hands shook, not from fear, from memory, from the ghost of pain that still lived in my burned nerves. Under the porch, I placed the first thing I'd built since the fire, a small device the size of a coffee mug, not a bomb, not even close. I'm no murderer. Just a little mechanism I'd rigged up from an old radio and motion sensor. Every time someone stepped over it, it made a low metallic thump, like a heartbeat trapped in the walls. That night, I sat in my truck across the street, headlights off, waiting. At 9:12, the porch light came on. Kyle stepped outside with a beer, probably thinking himself a king in a castle he hadn't built. The device gave its first soft thump. He froze, looked down, stepped again. Another thump. He backed away fast, muttered something, and disappeared inside. I saw the curtains twitch. Another thump. He turned on every light in the house. I smiled. The next morning, he called an exterminator. "Something's under the porch," he said loud enough for the neighborhood to hear. "Feels like it's alive." Alive. I liked that word. For a week he barely slept, left the lights on day and night. The sound never hurt him, but it got inside his head. I'd see him out front, eyes darting, shoulders tense, like a man waiting for lightning. Then I stopped it. Just like that. Pulled the plug and left silence behind. The silence was worse, because it made him wonder if it had ever really been there at all. I wasn't proud, not exactly, but I slept better that week than I had since the fire. Then came Lily. Sweet little Lily, who used to help me paint birdhouses in summer. Her hair tied with yellow ribbon. She'd grown into a girl with black eyeliner and sharper words. I saw her once at the cafe on Main. She looked right at me and didn't recognize the old man with the scars. That was good. It gave me time to look back at her, really look, and wonder what kind of darkness could live inside someone so young. I followed her after work, watched her cut through the alley, smoking, laughing into her phone. The same alley where, later that night, she'd find the note I left in the dumpster seam. I remember the match, Lily. That's all it said. No threats, no name. Just memory wrapped in quiet paper. She found it 2 days later. I was parked in my truck half a block away. She unfolded the note, and I saw her shoulders go rigid. She looked around fast, eyes scanning every shadow. Then she tore the paper, but her hands wouldn't stop shaking. I thought I'd feel satisfaction. I didn't. I felt old, older than my years. Revenge doesn't make you young again. It just keeps you from dying of heartbreak. That night, I dreamed of her as a little girl again, running barefoot through Martha's garden, holding a jar full of fireflies. The dream twisted halfway through. The fireflies turned into sparks, her laughter into screams. I woke drenched in sweat, heart hammering against scarred ribs. The next day, a knock at my motel door pulled me back to reality. 2 sharp knocks, official and cold. I opened the door to a woman in a gray coat, Detective Alvarez. She held a notepad and the kind of eyes that saw through walls. "Mr. Blake," she said, "we need to talk about the fire." I almost laughed. "You're 6 months late." She didn't smile. "And about the note your granddaughter found behind the cafe." That stopped me. My mouth went dry. "What note?" She looked straight at me. "The one that said, 'I remember the match. She's terrified, and I think you know why.'" For a moment, the room tilted. The walls felt too close, too hot. I wanted to tell her she was wrong, that I'd only wanted them to feel what I felt. But the words stuck. She stepped closer. "Mr. Blake, do you still believe justice is something you have to build yourself?" Her question burned more than any flame ever had. I didn't answer. I just looked at my hands, rough, scarred, trembling slightly. The hands that built homes, the same hands that now built fear. The detective sighed. "You've been through hell, but if you keep walking this road, you won't be the victim anymore. You'll just be another ghost of that fire." After she left, I sat for a long time in silence, staring at the ashes in my ashtray. They looked just like the field where I'd fallen, the same gray dust that once covered my wife's flowers. I told myself I'd stop, that it was enough. But as night fell and the shadows lengthened across the motel floor, I saw movement, or maybe memory, outside my window, the faint reflection of flames in glass that wasn't burning. I realized something then. The fire was still alive, not in wood or flesh, but in me. And it was hungry. Next comes Ben, the quiet one, the one who filmed it all. He thinks I don't know, but I do. I've always said silence is more dangerous than noise. People who talk will tell you what they want. People who stay quiet are building something in their heads, waiting for the right second to strike. That's why Ben scared me most of all. The quiet one, the observer, the boy with the camera who stood back while his brother poured gasoline, while Lily flicked the match. He didn't stop them. He filmed it. He was 16 back then, thin, shy, always watching. I used to think his quiet meant kindness, that he felt things too deeply to speak. I was wrong. His silence was just another kind of cruelty, passive, patient, rehearsed. When I got out of the hospital, I asked around. He hadn't gone to college like he'd planned. He'd dropped out, started doing video work, weddings, real estate tours, whatever paid. He'd turned that camera into his career. Irony, right? He made a living recording memories while running from the one memory that would eventually ruin him. I waited until I found out his schedule. Tuesdays he filmed for a local property firm. Fridays, a wedding hall near the lake. Sundays, he edited footage in a rented studio above a barber shop. That's where I went. The studio was small, bare floor, 2 monitors, a shelf full of lenses and cables. I sat across the street, watching from my truck. He looked older now, 22, hair slicked back, fake confidence replacing innocence. Every so often he'd glance at his reflection in the window and fix his collar, still vain, just like his father. When the clock hit 8, he turned off the lights and left. I waited 5 minutes, then crossed the street. The lock was simple. People trust doors more than they should. Inside, the room smelled like coffee and dust. I looked around and saw his equipment, neat and expensive. I found what I was looking for on the back shelf, a stack of old hard drives, unlabeled, dusty. I plugged one into his computer. The screen lit up. The first folder read, Family Archive. My breath caught. I clicked. There it was, the video, the fire, my fire. Labeled July 4th, Grandpa's lesson. I hit play. The sound came first, laughter, music, someone humming a tune off key. Then my voice, faint, confused. What are you kids doing with a gas can? Then flames, then screams. Mine. The video cut off just before the sirens. Ben had filmed everything. He'd even edited it, trimmed the edges, added music, some twisted attempt at art. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the mouse. I leaned back in his chair, feeling the air leave my lungs. I thought about Martha, what she'd say if she could see this. They filmed you like you were nothing, Tom. But as I sat there, something strange happened. The anger didn't come all at once. It came slow, like smoke curling under a door. It didn't roar, it whispered. So I whispered back. I copied the footage onto a flash drive. Then I left the rest of his files exactly as they were, except one. I renamed the video from Grandpa's lesson to evidence. Arson attempt, July 4th. Then I emailed it from his own account to 3 addresses. The local news station, the sheriff's office, and one final address he'd never expect. His boss. When I left the studio, the night air felt cleaner than it had in months. By dawn, it was everywhere. The video made the rounds faster than wildfire. Local videographer under investigation for shocking family footage. Reporters parked outside his house. His clients canceled bookings. His friends deleted him from social media like he was contagious. I watched from my truck, parked 2 blocks away. He came out once, shouting, pleading into his phone, voice cracking. Then he threw the phone against the wall and sank to the ground. For the first time, I felt sorry for him. Not because he didn't deserve it, but because I saw myself in him. A man surrounded by ashes, trying to understand which spark ruined his life. But pity doesn't erase what's burned. That evening, I drove back to my motel. There was a note under my door. No envelope, just folded paper with my name scrawled in shaky handwriting. We need to talk. It's about Kyle and Lily. Please, don't do anything else. Ben. So, he knew. I stared at the note for a long time. My first thought was to ignore it. My second thought was to finish what I'd started. But something in that handwriting, unsteady, almost childlike, made me pause. The next morning, I met him. We sat at a picnic table by the lake, the same lake where I used to take them fishing. He looked like a ghost, eyes red, fingers twitching. You did this, he said quietly. The video, the news, everything. I didn't light the fire, I said. He winced, like I'd struck him. I was 16. I didn't know they'd actually... Stop, I said. You knew enough to hold the camera steady. He dropped his gaze to the table. I thought it was a prank. I thought you'd yell and run. I didn't think that I'd burn. His jaw tightened. We were stupid. Kids. Kids don't pour gasoline, Ben. They don't film people screaming. For a while, neither of us spoke. The only sound was water slapping the dock. Finally, he whispered, What do you want from me? I wanted to tell him I didn't know anymore. That revenge hadn't healed anything. It had just turned my insides to smoke. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, I said, You want to make things right? Then help me with the others. He looked up, startled. The others? Kyle, Lily, Emma. You're not serious. I'm dead serious. He shook his head, stood up fast. You've lost it, Grandpa. You need help. I stood too. I needed help the night you watched me burn. He backed away slowly, eyes wide with something between fear and pity. You don't want justice anymore. You want to drag everyone into hell with you. Then he turned and walked off, leaving me alone by the water. For a long time, I just stood there, watching his reflection fade into ripples. Maybe he was right. Maybe I had become the fire I'd tried to survive. But there's no undoing what's already lit. Later that night, as I sat on the motel bed staring at the flash drive, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. A woman's voice. Calm. Cold. "Mr. Blake, this is Detective Alvarez. I think we should talk again. There's been an incident. Your grandson, Ben, he's missing." The line went dead before I could speak. I stared at the phone, the silence stretching. Then I looked at the window. For the first time since the fire, I saw my own reflection clearly, half human, half ruin, and behind it, for just a heartbeat, I thought I saw something else, the faint shimmer of flames. They'd started the fire once, but now I was the one carrying it, and it was about to spread. Detective Alvarez's words hit me like a hammer to the chest. "Your grandson, Ben, he's missing." I didn't ask her to repeat it. The sound of her voice said enough. Something had gone wrong, and for the first time since the fire, I wasn't sure who was to blame anymore. She told me to stay put, that they'd have questions later. But I couldn't sit there in that motel room staring at the same four walls while my past kept resurrecting itself. So I got in my truck, the one thing I had left that still smelled like my old life, and drove. The sky was turning the color of bruised fruit, deep purple melting into black. I followed the curve of the lake road until I saw flashing lights. 2 patrol cars, 1 ambulance, and a handful of uniforms combing the shoreline with flashlights. When Alvarez saw me, her expression didn't change. Not surprise, not anger, just quiet resignation. "I told you to stay put." "I don't take orders well anymore," I said. My voice sounded rough, even to me. "What happened?" She hesitated, then motioned toward the dock. We found his truck near the water, engine still warm, door open, no sign of struggle. But his camera was on the seat. "Camera?" "Yeah, it was recording." She handed me a small evidence bag. Inside was a memory card. "We haven't looked yet," she said. "Thought you might want to see before we file it." We went to her cruiser. She loaded the card into her laptop and the screen flickered to life. The timestamp read 8:42 p.m. The same night he'd walked away from me. The video began with the sound of footsteps crunching gravel, heavy breathing, and the sound of waves. Then Ben's voice, quiet, shaky. "Grandpa, if you see this, I need you to know, I'm sorry. I can't carry it anymore." My throat tightened. "I told Kyle and Lily you're alive. I told them you know what they did. They didn't believe me. They said you'd never hurt us. I said, maybe they don't know you anymore." He took a deep breath. The camera tilted toward the dark water. "I thought if I brought you the truth, it would fix things. But truth doesn't fix anything, does it? It just burns slower." The camera shook. His face filled the frame, pale, wet with tears. I wish I'd stopped them. I wish I'd put the fire out instead of watching. But now the fire's everywhere, Grandpa. It's in all of us. And maybe it's better this way. The screen jolted, the image blurred, swinging wildly. Then a splash. Water. Nothing but black waves. The recording ended. I stared at the screen, my burned fingers trembling. "You think he jumped?" Alvarez sighed. "We'll keep searching, but his wallet, his keys, everything's still in the truck." Something in my chest cracked then. Not all at once, but slow, like an old beam giving way after years of pressure. She studied me for a moment. "Tom, did you send that footage to the press?" "What footage?" I asked, even though I knew exactly which one she meant. "Come on. The video of the fire, the one that went viral before it disappeared." I looked out toward the lake. The wind had picked up, carrying the smell of wet ash and pine. "He filmed it," I said quietly. "I just gave it a better audience." She exhaled sharply, rubbing her temples. "You don't understand what you've started. That video, that note, it's unraveling everyone. Lily's checked herself into a hospital. Kyle's been questioned for arson and assault. Whatever you think you're doing, it's not justice anymore." Her words scraped like gravel. "Then what is it?" I asked. She looked at me for a long time before answering. "It's contagion. You didn't end the fire, Tom. You just gave it new fuel." That night, I drove home, or what was left of it. The old foundation was still there, blackened concrete under the moonlight. Grass had grown up through the cracks. I parked in the same spot where I used to keep Martha's rose bushes. The air was still, cold, heavy with the kind of silence that hums. I sat there until sunrise, thinking about Ben's words. The fire's everywhere, Grandpa. Maybe he was right. Maybe that's all grief is. A fire you feed with memory until it burns you hollow. I walked down to the edge of what used to be my garden. The earth smelled damp, full of life, trying to grow over the ruins. I knelt, slow and stiff, and dug my fingers into the soil. Ben, I whispered, if you're gone, I'll find you, one way or another. But if you're alive, I looked up at the horizon. Then you'd better be ready, because the rest of them aren't done yet. When I got back to the truck, there was something tucked under the windshield wiper, a folded piece of notebook paper, damp from dew. I unfolded it, one line written in that same shaky handwriting. The fire didn't take me, but someone else will. No signature, but I didn't need one. Ben was alive, and he wasn't done running. I looked at the note, then at the ashes of my home. The wind picked up, scattering gray dust across the road. That's when I saw it. Tire tracks leading away from the property. Fresh ones. Heading straight toward Kyle's house. The fire wasn't over. It had found a new match. And this time, I wasn't sure who'd be holding it. You'd think an old man like me would have run out of surprises. But when I saw those tire tracks leading from the ashes of my land toward Kyle's new house, I knew I wasn't the one in control anymore. The fire I'd been carrying wasn't mine to command. It had learned to move on its own. The morning was too quiet. Even the birds refused to sing, as if the world already knew something was about to break. I followed those tracks slowly, mile after mile of gravel road giving way to pavement, the smell of burnt earth still clinging to my clothes. Kyle's rebuilt house stood tall against the pale sunrise, all clean paint and polished fences. From the outside, you'd never guess what had once happened here. You'd never guess a man had burned for his family's sins. There was a police car parked out front. I killed the engine and watched from across the street. 2 officers were speaking to Kyle's girlfriend on the porch, her hair messy, her hands shaking. When she turned, I saw her eyes red from crying. Then Kyle came out. His face was pale, his mouth tight, a cigarette trembling between his fingers. I recognized that look, the kind you wear when you know something terrible is coming, and it's too late to stop it. I didn't need to go any closer to see what had happened. Smoke stains crawled up the siding near the porch, small, contained, but fresh. The officers pointed toward a blackened patch of wood near the door. I could see it from where I sat. Someone had tried to burn him. Someone had poured lighter fluid, lit it, and walked away before it spread. A single message had been carved into the porch post, the letters rough and deep. You filmed it. My chest went cold. Ben. It had to be Ben. The thought hit like a hammer. My quiet grandson, the one who'd filmed my burning and called it a prank, now playing with matches of his own. But then I saw something else. A second car parked at the edge of the property. Dark sedan, government plates, Detective Alvarez. She was leaning against her car, arms crossed, watching the scene like she'd been waiting for me. I didn't go to her, didn't have to. She crossed the road and stopped right beside my truck window. You can turn the engine off, Tom, she said. I did. Looks like your grandson's missing again, she continued, and someone tried to torch Kyle's porch last night. Same lighter fluid brand found in your shed from the fire 3 years ago. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you? Her tone wasn't angry. It was worse, tired. Detective, I said quietly, if you thought I did it, you'd have cuffs on me already. I don't think you did it, she said, but I think you started something that's going to finish itself. We both looked toward the house, where Kyle was shouting at one of the officers, his girlfriend sobbing behind him. He looked small from here, all his arrogance burned away, leaving something raw. You wanted them to suffer, Alvarez said. Well, congratulations. They're terrified. They think they're cursed. They think you're haunting them. Maybe I am, I said. Tom, she sighed. Ben left you that note, didn't he? I looked at her then. She already knew the answer. He's not just running, she said softly. He's angry. He told someone, an old friend of his from school, that he's going to finish what Grandpa started. That means Kyle, Lily, maybe even you. You understand what that means? I nodded slowly. It means I taught him too well. She stared at me for a long time, searching for something human in my eyes. If you really want to stop this, Tom, you'll call me before you do anything stupid. Promise me that. I didn't promise. She knew I wouldn't. After she left, I waited until the patrol cars were gone. Then I drove around the back of Kyle's property, through the old dirt path that used to lead to Martha's garden. I got out, leaned against a tree, and just watched. The house looked calm again. No more shouting. The smoke had faded, replaced by the quiet hum of guilt. And there, near the fence, I saw something glint in the dirt, small, metallic. I walked over, crouched down, and picked it up. A silver Zippo lighter. The initials scratched into the side were faint, but I could still read them. B.T. Ben Thompson. He'd been here. For a long moment I just stood there, staring at that lighter. It felt heavy in my hand, like holding a piece of my own past. The same model I used to carry back in the 70s when I still smoked, when Martha would scold me for the smell. I turned it over once, twice, and then flicked it open. The flame caught instantly. For a second, the fire reflected in my eyes, and I saw us all inside it. Me, Kyle, Lily, Ben, a family built from gasoline and grief. I closed the lighter and slipped it into my pocket. That night, I drove until the highway signs blurred into streaks. I didn't have a destination, just a direction, a way. But the past doesn't care about directions. It follows. At a gas station outside town, I saw the television above the counter flashing a news alert. The clerk turned up the volume. Authorities are searching for 22-year-old Benjamin Thompson, wanted for questioning in connection with 2 suspicious fires and the disappearance of a local journalist. Anyone with information. The picture showed Ben's face, pale, hollow, frightened, and beneath it, a sentence that made my stomach drop. Sources say the young man's grandfather, Thomas Blake, may also be at risk. At risk, not suspect. Target. For the first time since that night, I felt fear crawl under my skin again. Real fear. Ben wasn't just running from guilt. He was running toward something, toward me. I filled my tank and drove back into the dark. The road hummed beneath the tires, the world shrinking to the twin cones of my headlights. Somewhere out there, the boy with the camera was hunting the man who taught him how to see. And as the night swallowed me whole, I realized the truth I'd been avoiding all along. I hadn't passed the fire on by accident. I'd raised it. And now it was coming home. The road back into town was empty that night, as if the world itself was holding its breath. The headlights cut through the fog, carving pale tunnels in the darkness. Every mile brought the same thought, whispering louder and louder. Ben's coming for me. I tried to picture his face the way it used to be. Round cheeks, that shy smile when he'd bring me coffee from the diner on Sundays. I used to call him my shadow, always quiet, always nearby, always watching. I should have known that one day he'd learn more from my silence than from my words. I pulled up to the remains of my old property just before dawn. The ashes still held the shape of the house I'd built with my hands 50 years ago. I parked where Martha's rose bushes once grew. The air smelled of cold dirt and faint smoke, as if the land remembered what we'd done to each other. The lighter was still in my pocket. I flicked it open, watched the tiny flame dance in the wind. A simple machine, really. Metal, spark, fuel, air. Everything in life boils down to those 4 things. It's not fire that's dangerous, I realized. It's how easy it is to start. Headlights appeared on the hill, a small car, old, dented. It rolled to a stop near the oak tree. Ben stepped out. He looked thinner, paler, older than he should have at 22. His eyes were glassy, hollow, like someone who hadn't slept in days. "I knew you'd come back here," he said. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "You always said this land was the only place that ever told you the truth." I didn't move. "And what truth does it tell you, Ben?" He smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. That nothing ever really dies. It just changes shape. "You burned, Grandpa, but you didn't die. You passed it to me." He reached into his coat and pulled out a small metal canister. Gasoline. The smell hit me before the words did. "Don't do this," I said. "Why not?" he whispered. You taught me revenge is just another kind of balance. I'm just finishing the equation. I wanted you to understand, I said, my voice trembling. Not to repeat it. But you did repeat it, he snapped. You scared Kyle half to death. You pushed Lily until she broke. You sent that video and ruined my life. You lit the fire again, and now it's mine to carry. He stepped closer, unscrewing the cap of the canister. The liquid sloshed softly in the quiet morning. I could have run, could have shouted. Instead, I just stood there, watching the boy I'd raised become the reflection of the man I'd become. I didn't mean for it to go this far, I said. I just wanted them to feel what I felt. And now I feel it, he said. Every time I close my eyes, I see you burning. I hear you screaming. I hear myself laughing. He set the canister down at his feet and looked up at me, tears streaming down his scarless face. It's in me now, Grandpa. I can't turn it off. I took a step forward, slow, cautious, the way you'd approach a wounded animal. Then let me take it back. He frowned. You can't. I can try. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the lighter. His lighter, with the initials BT scratched into the side. I flicked it open, let the flame rise between us. The orange glow lit both our faces, mine a map of scars, his still whole. You think this is power? I asked. It's not. It's just a way out. Fire doesn't cleanse anything, Ben. It just erases what's left. He stared at the flame, his eyes wide. Then why did you keep it burning? Because I forgot how to stop. For a long moment, neither of us moved. The flame fluttered between us like a living thing. Then I snapped the lighter shut. The world fell into darkness again. You can end it, I said. Right here. Walk away. Let it die with me. He stood perfectly still, breathing hard, the gasoline canister at his feet. Then he turned, looked toward his car, and I thought maybe he was going to leave. That's when the wind picked up, a gust strong enough to knock the canister over. The liquid spilled across the ground, trickling toward the dry grass. Ben's eyes widened. No! He lunged for it, but his boot slipped in the mud. The metal struck a rock, sparks flying. Just one spark. That's all it takes. The fire roared to life, fast and wild, eating the grass, the air, the world. I grabbed him, pulled him back, but the heat was already building, the smoke thick and sharp. The flames danced in his eyes like judgment itself. Run, I shouted, but he just stared at me. Run, damn it! He shook his head. You first. I tried. God help me, I tried. But the fire moved faster than my legs. It reached us like a living memory, licking at the edges of my coat, curling around my hands. Then, darkness. When I woke, I was in a hospital bed. Again. The smell of antiseptic. The beep of a monitor. Detective Alvarez was sitting by the window, staring out at the pale morning light. He's gone, isn't he? I asked. She turned. Her face was softer than I'd ever seen it. They found his car by the lake. The fire burned through half the property, but we didn't find him. I closed my eyes. Maybe that's for the best. She stood, hesitated at the door. We'll call it an accident. But you and I both know what really happened out there. I nodded. A family curse burned itself out. She sighed. Try to rest, Tom. It's over now. But I knew better. When she left, I turned my head toward the window. The sun was rising through the smoke, painting the horizon in colors too much like fire. For a moment, I thought I saw a figure standing in the reflection, tall, still, holding a camera. I blinked. It was gone. Maybe it was just the light, maybe not. The nurse came in to check my bandages. You're lucky, Mr. Blake, she said softly. You shouldn't have survived. I looked at her and smiled. I've heard that before. She left. Outside, the wind picked up again, carrying the faintest smell of smoke through the cracked window. I closed my eyes and listened. Somewhere, far off, a match struck, and for the first time, I didn't know if it was memory or warning, because fires like ours don't die. They wait, and I think mine just found a new home.